Okay, so we're on to the fourth segment here. Maybe the last if I can get to the bottom of this letter. So where we left off was that the Armada and Drake's forces had been entertained to a great storm, considering the time of year. And so we finish off here with the year, like we said, which was spelled Y-E-R-E. And then a comma, he actually puts a comma here. And then he goes on to say the witch storm. So that's the, and again now the E is kind of just not even done. And these days we'd probably say the said storm or that storm, but he uses, I guess, an older English version more akin to Shakespeare, since they are contemporaries, saying the witch storm, as in which one. So now witch is quite interesting because back in the day, maybe to save paper, words like with would often just be a W with a little T. In this case, which he completely omits the H and the I and basically is just writing the W here and then a CH, C, and then this is an H, very stylized. So the witch storm, so again we have S, T, O, his stand-up R, M, and he spells storm with an E at the end. And I finally figured out, sorry it's taken me a while, but his S's, I guess they're all downstrokes, like here, and then here it's a downstroke, and then sometimes he puts a flourish or a cap on it. In this particular case, it's different. He just kind of do the S, and then he goes up to do the T. S-T-O-R-M-E. So the witch storm, now this is in many, in, I-N, no dot on the I. Many, this looks like may, but it's actually many. M-A, maybe that's the N and then the Y, but it's a bit hard to read. But in many of our judgments. So of, again, O, and I finally again realized even the F, like the S, is a downward stroke. And then it's hard to see, but he does the upward stroke and then the little tilde. So sometimes it looks like all one piece. Other times you can actually see how he's done it. So downward stroke, then up and over. So that's of. Now our is quite interesting. This is the O, and then the UR is just this big squiggle up here. And if you've ever seen Shakespeare's you and your, he does something very similar where the here would be the Y, and then the OUR just becomes this whole flourish here. So that seems to be a standard fancy way to show the OUR, or at least the UR. So this O and the squiggle is actually the word our. Now this one's hard because it's at the end of the page, but it's actually a J, U, D, and then a G, M, and then pretty much looks like just the T, S. So he's kind of omitted the EN, maybe because he was running out of space, but this is our judgments. So in many of our judgments, this storm he's talking about hath, so H, A, T, H, hath not a little, hath not, N, O, T, Now you gotta pay attention here. L, I, no dot. T, L, E. So this is a bit hard because the S from the storm is kind of down here. So looks to me like he spelt little with one T, but hath not a little. Now he's still talking about the storm. So the storm hath not a little annoyed. A N N O Y, and then maybe an E, but definitely looks like he spelled annoyed with, it looks like a double T, which is a bit weird, but annoyed, again, the standard the, I won't go through that. This is the enemies, so the E-N-E-M-I-E-S, no apostrophe, don't know if that was normal. Army, again, the fancy A-R-M-Y. So basically the storm, in their judgment, the storm has definitely bothered, or hath not a little bothered, the enemy's army. So it goes on. Now, this is interesting. So this is basically saying, if the winds hinder it not, again, he's talking about the storm. So if, this is fancy I, and then here you can definitely see his F is very weird. So it's a downward stroke, then an upward stroke, and the tilde. So now it's completely separated. He's really either rushing or getting lazy. I don't know which. If, this is the, this time he's really done the E. And this is wind, W. Again, the I is sort of not there, N, D. If the wind hinder, so this is H, I with no dot, N, D, E, R. If the wind hither it not, N-O-T, I think, T-H-I-N, and a very recognizable K. I think they, T-H-E-Y. So I'm not writing over these because you guys know this all very well. So A-R-E, they are forced. Again, so the F is a downward stroke like the S, and then he comes up, crosses over to make it an F and not an S. Then he adds the O, and then the R, C, E, D. They are forced to, T-O, and then Denmark. So the D for a capital, he just makes it larger. So it's the D, and then he flips it over onto the 2. So Denmark, this is his R, and then a very recognizable K. They were forced to Denmark. And this, I don't know if we saw this before, but this definitely is like an ampersand. It's means and. It's just a short way to write and. So they're forced to Denmark. And now he's saying, and that for diverse causes. What he really means is there's several reasons, but this is, again, early modern English, so not the way we would say it today. So he's saying that they're forced to Denmark, and that, T-H-A-T, for, again, the same thing, make this an F, this is the O, R, diverse, D-I-V-E-R-C-E, for diverse. And again, this is the fancy C. A-U-S is a stroke down. This here, and I guess this is the E, and although this looks like an R, it's probably that S that kind of goes like this. So causes. So N for diverse causes. And now he's saying, talks about the state of their fleet. So certain it is, C-E-R-T-A-I-N, it, I, no dot, T. Then he kind of runs it all together, but the two words. This is another I, and then S. This smudge, I think, is just on the paper, just like this one. So certain it is that a T. This is many, M-A-N-I-E. So again, he's not using the Y. Many of, so here again, stroke down. Oh no, I'm sorry. O, stroke down, and then a stroke up, and tilde makes it of. So many of their, T-H-E-I-E, people, many of their people. So P, space, E-O-P-L-E. Many of their people were, the W-E-R-E, sick. Many of their people were sick. So S, and then this makes it the S. I with no dot. This is the C, and then the K. Many of their people were sick, and not a few. N-O-T. A-F-E-W-E, few, and not a few killed. So again, kind of a negative. It basically means some were killed. That's the K, I, no dot, double L-E-D. There, T-H-E-I-R. Ooh, this is good. Ships, but it's spelled P-P-E-S. So again, the S is just a downward stroke, very long. The H, then an I. Maybe he dotted the I, a bit askew, but, and then double P-E-S. Many of their ships, comma. Again, downward stroke, a little cap makes it an S. A-I-L-E-S, so they're sails, the sails of the ships. The ropes, R-O-P-E-S. And, ooh, a very flourishy end, and masts, M-A-S-T-S. They're masts. Needeth, N-E-E-D-E-T-H. Great, G-R-E-A-T. Oh, I said repairs, but it's reparations. Reparations. Looks like it's spelled with a T and not a French C. For O-R, that they had. Interesting, he doesn't use hath. He says had. But for those of you who took Shakespeare in high school, you'll remember that he often used hath and had sometimes in the same sentence even. So I think at this point in English, end of the 1500s, the hath and hads were kind of mingling together, and the hath was on its way out. So for they had all, this is that big A, double L, almost looks like a U or something. That's the L's are very squat and short. They had all felt, F-E-L-T, of your, now again, when he's talking about the queen, he gets very fancy. So this Y, and then again, sort of that O, and then that sort of flourish here. And then he adds this extra little nice flourish to say your as in very. And this is a short form of majesties. So it's M-A, and then just the T and the S, because obviously majesty was too long to write, and everybody knows he's saying majesties. Now this one has got to be my favorite word, and I'll tell you why. This word is for they had all felt of your majesty's force. But maybe because he's getting near the end of this page, but this force, as in F-O-R-C-E, it's almost like he's not even trying. So let's see, it's basically a downward, and then the cap here, which crosses over to make it an F. Then the O is kind of just a thought. O, and then R is supposed to be here. This is definitely the C and the E. So this word here is force, but very difficult to make out. So that's it. And look, I even used my nice quill pen here. So that's it. That takes us to the end of the letter, pretty much. There's a couple more lines here, but they're hard to read. So this comes to the end, and I don't think I made any mistakes, finally, in this episode. So there you go. That's the letter in 4 parts. Hopefully that helped to show that it's not chicken scratchings. This was actually sent to the Queen, so you would think that he was writing it in the best eloquent style of letters that he could muster, even though perhaps he was on a ship that was being tossed around in a storm, so who knows. We'll maybe catch you for another contemporary letter at some point.